Hello. Welcome to another segment of Education. Join the conversation. This evening, I have the pleasure of introducing John Fischer, the Deputy Commissioner of Education, to my right, Tim Donovan, the Chancellor of the Vermont State College System, and Commissioner Annie Noonan, the Commissioner of the Department of Labor. We're here to talk today about an array of ideas related to the governor's inaugural speech, particularly about the needs of the state around workforce development. The governor has really emphasized the need for our schools to be doing a job of better preparing our students for the careers and the needs of the state of Vermont. John, Tim, and Annie are experts in this area and we'll be talking about that. I'll first start with John. John, tell us a little bit about the Career and Technical Center and the role they're playing in preparing our students for the careers here in Vermont.
Yeah, I'd love to. We have 17 regional career centers around the state, many of them covering a wide variety of programming for high school students to choose from, somewhere around 290 some odd programs throughout the state. We've looked more and more at, everybody's heard about STEM industries and STEM careers. These programs run the full range from medical and health programs to human service programs, business systems, engineering, travel and tourism programs. And more we're looking at what are the programs that are vital to Vermont's economy, as well as what are the programs that students like, because we're hearing and research has shown more and more that if students read and study areas that are of interest to them, they stay more engaged in school, they stay enrolled in school, and they're as likely to carry on their education beyond high school. And by introducing programs such as dual enrollment, we see more and more of those students carrying on beyond high school and then staying in Vermont and working in many of these career fields. The regional career centers were one of the first areas to offer dual enrollment on site at the career center. And each year we have roughly 400 or more students participating in dual enrollment courses through the state college system largely, but as well participating in dual enrollment in 12 or 14 other colleges through the state. So we've seen great opportunities for students and greater numbers of students moving on to college and apprenticeship programs post-secondary after they leave the secondary education system.
Yeah. Thank you, John. And that's a perfect segue, actually, for Chancellor Donovan to talk about dual enrollment and some of the opportunities available to our students that are really being provided by the state college system.
Well, state colleges, and we have a great array of independent colleges in the state as well. Thank you, Armando. I think the thing that we all know is that what's changed in our economy and in our workforce needs over the last decade or so is that some education or training beyond high school becomes essential. Yeah. That there simply aren't any jobs any longer that one can sustain a family on that doesn't require somebody to be able to learn new skills and keep current in their employment. Vermont graduates a high number of students from high school. We have a pretty good sized gap for continuation beyond high school. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that the state colleges and other institutions have been working on over the last 10 years is creating opportunities for kids while they're still in high school to engage in college so that they can get a taste for what that is. And sometimes people think that's about for kids who already know they're going to college, but we've really tried to focus on those kids who might have lost that interest or are unsure, or for whom families are unsure of their ability to send their children to college. And so dual enrollment is a really simple idea. It's that a young person that's still in high school, as part of their high school graduation requirements, takes college courses in a way that counts both for their high school graduation and also gives them a jump start, if you will, a head start on starting college. And currently, we graduate about 7,000 high school graduates in this state a year. At least 10% of those kids are doing some level of dual enrollment, starting college while they're in high school. And what we've discovered is that these young people continue on to college at a rate higher than the population as a whole, because they've been able to experience something outside of their high school, sometimes inside their high school. We do that both with the tech centers and with 61 high schools in the state, providing those opportunities for their students. So it's a really a valuable way to get people have a little bit of a head start on what college is going to be like, and some credits. And the state has provided, through the Department of Labor, the Next Generation Fund has provided support so that the kids can do that college work at no cost to them.
Tim, and I want to come back to that in a second, particularly about raising the aspiration rates for many of our, particularly first-time college students. But I also want to hear from Annie, because Annie, you are right in the middle of all of this, and the future of our economic development and of the labor force. You are leading the way, and people might find it maybe just a little odd that you would be sitting around a table with educators. Tell us how the work that you do, how it fits in with us, and a little bit about some of the opportunities that you help provide students around internships and real-life experiences.
Right. Well, a lot of people talk about the issues of a skill gap, and I think that what is happening now is the employer community in Vermont, the education community in Vermont, and the leadership in Vermont, spearheaded by Governor Shumlin, are really talking about how do we address that concern of the Vermont employer community. So the first thing I think is important to know is there are lots of jobs in Vermont, and employers are actually hiring, and just statistics bear that out. So we have one of the lowest unemployment rates in the nation. We're the lowest in New England. We're the lowest west of the Mississippi at this point, 5.1%. We also are the only state that posted a median household income gain last year, the only state in the nation at 4%, which is just tremendous, showing that the economy in Vermont is coming back. And we will be able to share next week the statistics that show that Vermont grew 3,000 jobs last year. So there are jobs in Vermont. So part of the initiative of what we're doing is working on ensuring that the monies that come to the Department of Labor, either through the federal government or the state government, that they're being put to use in effective ways to address the workforce needs and training needs, so that we can actually produce a workforce that's ready and trained to go and fill the jobs in Vermont. So one of the initiatives that the governor put forward that we're partnering with the education community and with Commerce is the Make Vermont Home project. And that's basically, our role in that is to ensure that we are inventorying Vermont employers every day. And we have 2 staff people who are on the phone all day long talking to the Vermont employer community about what jobs do you have open, are you having any recruitment problems for those jobs, what are they, what are the hard to fill jobs, and we're translating that back into all of the workforce partners and training partners in the state so that we're able to identify where we need to be building programs. And there's lots of good programs in Vermont, and I'll get to that too. But the other piece of that is marketing Vermont, because marketing in state to remind people that, stay here. We have jobs in Vermont. Have your children stay here. The kids that are graduating out of Vermont high schools and colleges, to let them know that there is a future here for them in Vermont. And then we're also making sure that we're doing effective job matching. The Career Readiness Certificate Program, the trainings that go on through the private and public training funds are really getting people ready to go into those jobs. So the Make Vermont Home project also is now connecting back to the in-state colleges and universities, and then also marketing to people who have left Vermont. Some of our graduates who have gone away, they loved Vermont, they came to school here, but they've left. Now we're saying to them, come on back, we have openings for you to come to. So we're very fortunate to be in the position where we actually have job opportunities to offer. And I think that the signs are that the economic situation in Vermont will improve again in this coming year. So we're very, very encouraged, and we want to carry that message. And then in terms of some of what we all work on together, the education community, the employer community, this are things like the apprenticeship program, the registered apprenticeship program, where students are getting into that. They're earning money while they're being trained for some really exciting opportunities that will keep them into jobs probably for the rest of their lives, maybe earning very good salaries as plumbers, electricians, carpenters, all of those things. But many, many apprentice programs. Internships, the employer community and the business community stepping up to the plate and taking kids in. And kids who go into internships have very good career placement options. And so I think that there's lots of opportunity for us to leverage, and we'll talk, I think, about next generation and the WET Fund as we get into this.
Tim, did you have?
You know, I think there's an interesting alignment right now with the business community, the education community, the Department of Labor, and the governor's message last week, and the themes that he talked about, and in fact some of the initiatives that he talked about are things that have been very actively pursued by the Vermont Business Roundtable and the Chambers of Commerce in this state. And so I think there's a remarkable alignment. One of the aspects of this, I think, is really about understanding what career possibilities there are.
That's
A change that's happened over the last couple of years, really significantly under Commissioner Noonan's leadership, is that there's been a focus on not just what the jobs are now, but what they will be. And that's hard to predict, but one of the things that I hear from the business sector and other employers, and we have a very large non-business employment sector in the state, is that it's not necessary for somebody when they're 14 or 16 or 20 to know exactly what it is they want to do. Probably none of us did at that age. But it's really important that they have experienced enough things so they start to know what might be possible and what's out there. I think manufacturing is one of those things that we hear a lot about. You know, manufacturing is dying in the U.S. Manufacturing is strong in this state.
Yes.
But it's not the manufacturing that it was 20 years ago. It's clean, it's high tech, it requires good math and analytical skills and good communication skills. And what I hear from employers day in and day out is that's where they might need some more engineers, and that's a particular career path. But at the production level in these companies, they need people who have good analytical skills, good communication skills, good work ethic. And I think if we can attend to those kinds of issues in our K-12 system as well as our post-secondary system, the employers will be well served in this state. And so I think that's I think some of the exciting work that's coming out of the Department of Labor right now.
John, following up on Tim's, the idea that when students graduate from high school or high school, that they should have an idea or have at least had some experiences in what they want to do in the future. The governor talked about personal learning plans. You just want to explain what personal learning plans are and then how it ties into exactly what Tim was talking about.
Exactly, and this is part of that complex problem of how do we, even working off some of the messages that the governor had last week, how do we provide these opportunities for all students? How do we close some of these gaps where the haves and the have-nots type of thing? And personal learning plans is one of those ways of ensuring that students are aware of all of these opportunities and they have the pathways open to them. Many times it's not determining what it is that student wants to do. Sometimes it's determining what they don't want to do.
Right.
And it's only through that experience that they get that. The development of a personal learning plan, whether it's in middle school or before they get into 9th grade or whatever, really starts setting the stage for what is open for that student to consider as they look at their pathways in education and lifelong learning. It isn't so much of a document, although documents are involved in going on student records. It's the process. It's an opportunity for the students to sit with school officials, higher ed, business leaders, but also involve the parents and the community in that discussion and begin experiencing what some of those opportunities are. I think in everything that we're talking about, the real goal is to provide students at the end of whatever that experience is, more opportunities, not fewer. So while there's career awareness and career development involved there, it's also a rigorous set of engaged learning opportunities, whether it's academic or integrated academic, and really providing that student more opportunities as they go along, where the student is the active person determining what they do next, and engaging the parents and the family in that as well. That development of the personal learning plan is not a single event as well. It's a fluid document and thought process that the student can change and modify as they go along. But they have an opportunity to say, I'd like to have a dual enrollment experience, I'd like to have an internship experience, I'd really like to get into studying forestry or sciences, and they really begin setting that stage.
And that ties them right into, again, hopefully preparing them to continue their education in some capacity, because I think Tim's point, I want to say it again, that a student who graduates from high school today without a further education is really not going to earn much more than, it's not going to have a livable wage. So right. I think what we're all trying to do is how do you provide students with that opportunity to not only have an experience about what they're interested in doing, but then pathways within the state, either through the state colleges or through internships and opportunities to really try it out. And I was at a meeting the other day, and somebody, and this, we're talking about some of the workforce needs of the state. Mm-hmm. And someone felt that we were putting too much emphasis on STEM, in the area of STEM. When I look at some of the statistics, we know that there's a need there. And I think, Tim mentioned some of the manufacturing roles today are different than they were when I was growing up, and it was a garment factory. What are some of the areas in Vermont that are really, that we really have a need for students or folks to move into? Well,
there's no doubt that any of the positions in the STEM being science, technology, engineering, and math, there's no doubt that we're hearing from the Vermont employer community that those skills will allow people to move into jobs. Engineering's an area where all the employers are saying, we need engineering. But as Tim said, that sort of at the lower level, the technical level, yes. we still need students to be able to, do math on the job. We still need people to be able to write and communicate and have good interpersonal skills and a good work ethic. So employers say to us that they're willing to take people with good basic skills and they'll train them up if they need to. But by the same token, they really are frustrated when they're trying to get the employees. They hire people and they really realize that they just can't make the basic grade. So what we're seeing is those jobs will always be there. But there's lots of other areas in the state of Vermont. I mean, Tim mentioned that manufacturing certainly has a lot of different variety to it. But so we're also seeing other sorts of business and professional needs. So we're seeing people, Vermont can handle lots of people into the legal profession. Vermont can handle lots of people who are interested in the green jobs technology.
Software development.
If we could produce 10 web developers an hour, we could employ 10 web developers an hour. So there's those kinds of statistics that we're watching and we're trending. What are we hiring for today? What will we be hiring for in 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years? And our labor market division is watching those trends. So we're trying to communicate that back to the tech ed centers, back to the Vermont education community and the higher education community to let them know what will be out there. But Vermont's economic base is very diverse. So that's one of the reasons we don't go quite as high in terms of the good times, and we don't go quite as low in the bad times because we have a very broad economic base. So, for example, we see lots of kids in Vermont. The resurgence in the interest in sustainable foods and agriculture is really that's a whole area that we're seeing a lot of Vermont students take an interest in. Now, that falls sort of to the side a little bit of the science, technology, engineering, math, as a lot of people perceive it. But they will still need those skills.
Well, I think we need to look at STEM in across the continuum. Some of it is STEM careers.
Right.
Careers in biologists and engineers, but at the same time, there are increasingly STEM components to almost any career path. Janet Bombardier from IBM is very articulate about we need to put a new emphasis on math. None of the STEM areas exist without a math undergirding, and we need to put a new emphasis on math. But coming into that, needs to focus on answering the question before a student asks it. Why do I need to know this? I mean, we've all
Yes.
we've all heard somebody say that. We've probably all said it ourselves. Why do I'm in the middle of algebra? Why do I care? And I think part of that is career awareness, and creating opportunities for young people to know what the huge range of opportunities are, not just in their community, but in the world. I mean, as we think about software development, one of the benefits of Vermont is this is a great place to live. It's also a place that, with the success we've had in telecommunications implementation, you can work from anywhere, live in this wonderful place, and do work that's national or international. But any of those jobs require more of a math undergirding than they ever have before. And one of the things that I hope that we can do is that we can help we have a guidance counselor community in the state that's very talented, stretched very thin, but being sure that the guidance counselor community knows what the future looks like for young people and helping them be guided. So I think we've had an educational system for a century that's focused on a certain level of success for the top third of kids. And we can't afford that anymore as a society or as an economy. We need every kid coming out of their education able to really fulfill their potential.
Right.
And there are some of the programs that are available and opportunities. I mentioned registered apprenticeship, but there's also programs where kids and adults can go to and come out with an industry recognized certification.
Right.
And that's a very big push now, and employers are looking at that and saying, that is a piece of paper that's worth something. So we don't necessarily have to say that every kid, we want every kid to have good skills and good education, but where they go, where they decide to ultimately go, there are other pathways, and we're looking at trying to make sure that that students see the tech ed centers as career centers, not just focused on that, but there's really tremendously interesting things happening, and I think that's only going to be built upon. And I know that the governor's interest in beefing up those tech centers and to, in some way, to rebrand their image, because they're really doing some neat and innovative programs that will lead to people getting jobs, and that they're just a great opportunity for people. So a big plug to the tech center.
There's so many, there's like 10 questions I want to ask, but one of the things that I really want to, and you just said rebranding is important. Exactly. Because John, and this is an area you're an expert in, the career and technical education. Tell us what that rebranding that we're really looking at, that from a vocational center to a career and technical center.
And it really centers on what we grew up with versus what's really out there now.
Yes.
And it was something that was stated earlier, that we know what we're employing people in Vermont in certain areas. What we have to work, and we've done some great work, you've done some great work in the Department of Labor, is looking at what those emerging careers are. And keeping in mind that students now, when they graduate, will probably change careers 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times.
Not just jobs,
Not
careers.
Careers,
Yes.
whole different careers. So while they go through school at whatever level, multiple degrees or certifications or whatever, what are the transferable skills that they can go through and do? It has changed the essence of what the public education system looks like, higher education, apprenticeship programs, everything has changed. But we ourselves still think of my father's vocational education system.
Yes.
And it isn't that way anymore. That's not what's going on out in the regional career centers. And it isn't just in Vermont, it's nationwide. There is a rebranding going on now as we speak on what those career and technical education programs look like. What we're looking for here in Vermont as well is rebrand that and also start some of those courses earlier. How can we get some of those informational level courses and really introductory courses started in middle school and 9th and 10th grade, where right now the regional career centers are focused on 11th and 12th grade just because of the very nature of our funding system and how we're set up. So it really is important to expose students and provide opportunities to students early on in middle school, start working on those career plans, the professional development, personal learning plans, and then recognize that as they move along in that, and they get into the workforce, they'll take some of those skills and they'll move to completely different careers that right now we may not even be able to identify what those are.
You know, John, you talked earlier about flexible pathways and individual learning plans. I think the great promise of both of those things is that we can assist and permit a young student in middle school and high school to have an influence by their interest in what their education looks like, instead of just fitting into a set of boxes and based on how much time they spend in certain classes. It also means that we can start to look at that individual plan in a way and say, where are the pieces that will help make this plan work?
Exactly.
We tend to say, at this point, you have to leave the high school to go to the tech center. That's a model that we need to find a way to end. Right. Or that you need to leave high school before you go to college, or that you need to leave high school to be in an apprentice program. Mm-hmm. We need to look at all those things as the full set of resources that are available to a school to help with this one young person's education. And if we do that, and we're a state small enough to do that, so that when my child finishes high school, they will have had a piece from the tech center that's affiliated with my high school as part of their high school education, or vice versa. And it's up to us to not let the structures of school get in the way of that happening, and I think that's really the challenge the governor's given us all.
Well, I think, you know, one of the things, hearing a governor talk about education, the way he spoke about it last week was, almost made me cry, because I had not heard that in years. And his voice behind what we're talking about is really going to be the impetus to make this successful. Because I do think that, Tim, I want to, and this is the piece about the career and tech centers. A student goes to a career and tech center, it's a gateway to college. It's a gateway to continue their education.
We have programs, I know, particularly at the Community College of Vermont and at Vermont Tech, we have programs with the tech centers. I think that at every one of the tech centers, there's programs that kids come out with anywhere from 6 to 16 college credits out of the tech centers.
Right.
You know, you mentioned the governor's speech nearly bringing you to tears last week. We had the same response from the business community.
Yes.
The Business Roundtable annual meeting was the same day as the governor's speech, and it so much aligns with what the business community has been saying about education is the pathway to economic prosperity in the state. And so again, there's a remarkable alignment right now from all of these sectors.
Annie, one of the pieces that I think, and the governor addressed this as well, that this can't be done by state government or schools alone. The role of business in preparing students for the future needs of our state.
Right, absolutely. Tim mentioned the career exploration, and I've mentioned internships and apprenticeship. All of that is basically the employer community coming to the table to allow students into the work site, to give them opportunities, whether it's at the younger kids with the career exploration, internships for the high school and college kids, apprenticeships, the same thing. It's all the employers opening up their doors and letting the students in. There can't be a cry from the employer community saying, we need workers, we need skilled workers, we need folks who are here who want to be here, if they don't open the doors up and sort of let people in. So it's every bit as important for a kid to go into and do have this opportunity to explore what they may be interested in. It's every bit as important that somebody who thinks they want to be a nurse and maybe gets into a hospital setting for an internship and realizes they can't stand the sight of blood before they've spent 3 years in college and their parents' tuition money. You know, it's the tuition money the parents are paying. It's every bit as important that the kids see what they like, and they see role modeling, they see as to what they don't like. I mean, so this is really important, and the employer community has to be absolutely invested and partnered with this plan, or it cannot work.
Right. There's so many things that we could talk about. I'm also interested in we've graduated many students from high school that are really not prepared. So now they're adults. The whole issue of adult retraining, and how does that fit into education and the workforce needs. Unfortunately, I was just given the 2-minute warning, so I think that that may have to be a topic for another day, but that is, I know that we've talked about this, about the needs for those high school graduates who may be between 19 or 20 and 30, and what are the opportunities available for them.
And finding ways for them to come back into the system.
Exactly, and is that, and the whole question of, we've talked a lot about the Northeast Kingdom and the potential growth in the Northeast Kingdom. How many folks up there right now could really fit right into some of the needs, but there may need to be some retraining, and that's another conversation that we'll have to have on another day.
I'll put a plug in for the Workforce and Education and Training Fund, because employers, that fund supports internships, it supports the employer community coming to the Department of Labor and talking to us about what their needs are, and we can work with them to give them grants to train people. The other thing is for individuals, they should come to the local Department of Labor office. They may qualify for training funds based upon their demographic. So if they're, a low-income Vermonter, an at-risk youth, if they're a veteran, there's lots of training support out there. It's just tapping into it. And the best place to go is to stop at a DOL office in your region and ask if there's an opportunity for you to have some supports.
And great education and training resources to bring to bear on those needs.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I wanted to somehow or other get the WEF funds in here.
WEF funds are in there.
And I'm glad that you were able to do that. I think that we're through for the day. I want to thank my guests for being here. This has been a great conversation. Every time I'm with you guys, I learn something. And what the governor's saying, what we're talking about, it really is, we're all moving in the same direction, and how do we provide more and better opportunities for our young adults and for our citizens to not only stay in Vermont, but benefit from staying in Vermont. Thank you very much for joining us, and I thank you all for being here, and maybe we could do this again sometime in the spring.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.